Alright, so here we're going to continue on with operations. We'll just go ahead and start example 3. And it talks about that we have a certain star that is 4.3 times 10 to the second power light years from the Earth. And that 1 light year is about 5.9 times 10 to the 12th miles. And it wants to know how far from the Earth in miles is the star. So if we were doing like on Earth, if I knew that Chick-fil-A was 2 miles away from where I was, then if I wanted to figure it out in feet, then I would take the 2 miles times the fact that there's 2,580 feet in 1 mile. So it's the same thing here. In order to change from light years to miles, I'm going to take light years times miles. So in this case, that's going to be 4.3 times 10 squared times, I'd rather use the dot. We're going to use the dot. Where's my little button? Oops. Times 5.9 times 10 to the 12th power. So when I do multiplication, and we're going to do this with division as well, I'm going to break it into 2 multiplication problems. I'm going to take the 4.3 times 5.9, and then we're going to keep the times the 10, but that's going to be 10 squared times 10 to the 12th. So I'm going to start by taking 4.3 times 5.9, which is 25.37. And when I multiply with the same base, then I add my exponent. So I'm going to do 2 plus 12. So right now I have 25.37 times 10 to the 14th power. And then the last thing we should always do is check to make sure that our number is actually in scientific notation. The issue is this is greater than 10, so it's not in scientific notation, and I've got to move my decimal to the left. And if you remember right, if we moved left, then we added. So if we move left, we add to our exponent. If we move right, we subtract. So I moved left 1, so I'm going to add 1. So our final answer will be 2.537 times 10 to the 15th power. And so that's how many miles. And keep in mind, 2.537 doesn't seem like a big number, but we're moving that decimal 15 times, and so it becomes a giant number. Alright, so that's example 3. Example 4, we're just going to straight up do division, which we've kind of already done when we did ratios in earlier chapter, or in earlier sections. So when I do this division, again, I'm going to take the numbers, so our first factors, 3 divided by 5, and then we're going to do 10 squared divided by 10 to the negative 8. So I'm actually going to take 3 divided by 5. We're not going to leave it as a fraction. This becomes 0.6. And then when we divide, we subtract our exponent. Divide with the same base, I should say. Then we subtract our exponent. So we're going to have 2 minus a negative 8, which is the same as 2 plus 8. So we get 0.6 times 10, and 2 plus 8 is 10. And then our last question should be, is this in scientific notation? And the answer is no, because our first factor is not greater than or equal to 1. So I've got to make it greater than or equal to 1 by moving it to the right. And if we move to the right, we're going to subtract. And so I now have, so I'm going to subtract 1 because I moved 1, 6 times 10 to the 9th power. And that is our final answer. So we're using just basic integer operation when multiplying or dividing, and then the fact that our exponent operations, our exponent rules from chapter 3. So again, math builds on itself. We can't just learn something and then forget it. Alright, so last example, example 5. On a certain planet, continent X has an area of 6.23 times 10 to the 6th square miles, and continent Y has an area of 6.36 times 10 to the 6th square miles. So first we want to know which continent is larger. And the easiest thing, they both have the 10 to the 6th, so I just have to compare 6.23 with 6.36, and 6.36, thanks, is the larger one, which was continent Y. So which continent is larger? And the answer is Y. Continent Y. Here we'll put C-O-N-T for continent. And then it asks, by how many square miles is that area greater? Well, when we want to, that's asking for the difference. What is the difference in their areas? And so in order to do that, we're going to do 6.36 times 10 to the 6th minus 6.23 times 10 to the 6th. Keeping in mind that when we're adding and subtracting, we have to have those like bases. Well, not just like bases, but we have to have those same powers of 10. And here we have 10 to the 6th and 10 to the 6th. So we're really just going to take 6.36 minus 6.23 and then keep the times 10 to the 6th power. So 6.36 minus 6.23 is 0.13 times 10 to the 6th power. And again, always we have to double check, is that in scientific notation? And the answer is no. We need to move it. It is less than 1. So I need to move it to where we're equal to or greater than 1. And so when I move that decimal to the right, I'm going to subtract from my exponent, and I end up with 1.3 times 10 to the 5th power. And so by how many square miles is the area greater? 1.3 times 10 to the 5th. Oops. And so that's how many square miles difference between continent X and continent Y. Oh, excuse me. If you want to hear the reason why we add or subtract, please feel free to come talk to me and I'll give you that explanation. I just don't want to put too much frivolous information into the notes, but I'm more than happy to explain to you why it is that when we move to the left we add and when we move to the right we subtract. So until next time,